Welcome to the Shannon Joy Show. Hello, world, and welcome to the Shannon Joy Show. We are broadcasting live from the Joy Virtual Studio right here in the beautiful Finger Lakes region of New York State. It is so great to be with all of you today. Big thank you to the beautiful, talented Inez Annie Cyrus, who is producing the Shannon Joy Show today. We're broadcasting live on Rumble, Twitter, Spreely TV, Roku TV, Apple TV. We are also on YouTube, Substack, Facebook, Daily Clout, and a variety of other platforms. You can get the Shannon Joy Show at your leisure in the audio form on every podcast platform you can ever imagine. Thank you to our partnership over at Radcast. Over 80,000 downloads every single week of the Shannon Joy Show via audio. Growing this platform every single day. Could not do it without all of you, all of the independent supporters of the Shannon Joy Show. Those of you who are angel investors who contribute every month by going to my website, theshannonjoy.com, theshannonjoy.com, to sign up to be a monthly contributor. Thank you. You are amazing. There are so many of you that have been contributing to the Shannon Joy Show for almost 10 years. I see your contributions when they come through. The $2.99 club, those of you who are still at that $2.99 level, you've been with me for over a decade, and my cup runneth over. I'm so thankful for your support, and we could not be independent here in the Shannon Joy Show. Not left, not right, not Democrat, not Republican, just sane, right? Speaking the truth, telling the truth as best we can every single day, navigating these tumultuous political waters. So many lies coming from both sides of the political aisle, both on left-wing news media and right-wing news media. I don't know how you all do it. If you're just an average layperson American, just trying to get a nut, taking care of your family, working really hard, maybe trying to get a sliver of the American dream, you are pummeled every day, a fire hose in your face with lies and propaganda from virtually every media outlet, in my opinion, as of today. And navigating that and trying to find the truth is so difficult. That's why every single day here in the Shannon Joy Show, we try to navigate that with you and bring you the truth. In fact, today I have made a list. I will do this every so often. I don't want this to be your only source out there. People who are independent outside of the two-party political paradigm, telling the truth every day. I want you to have a variety of sources. And as you know, there are trusted sources that I use every day for content and analysis. And I have a list here of about, I would say, 24 phenomenal sources. You guys know a lot of these names, but I'm going to list them for you so that you guys can write them down and begin to extricate yourself from right-wing news media like talk radio and Fox News and all of the big platform shows, and left-wing news media. We know the New York Times, ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN. They're all firmly in, the left-wing part of the paradigm. But what we need are independence. And so I have a list for you today that we are going to go over. Before we bring in our guest, I promised you Aaron Day. We only had about 20 minutes with him last week. We want to do a much deeper dive on the technocracy, the ideology of the techno fascists. It has set hold in the United States of America. It's the #1 news story, in my opinion, every single day. One of the stories that we are featuring in my top stories of the day, linked in the show notes of the Shannon Joy Show, is Palantir, now valued at $1 billion, okay, in just 6 short months after purchasing the presidency of the United States of America and the vice presidency. We know Peter Thiel, the head of Palantir, installed J.D. Vance as vice president and also funded Trump's rise to victory. He now owns this president and this nation. Unbelievable. That's just one of the technology companies that is cashing in a breathtaking way. the entirety of the United States of America up for sale as Donald Trump sells this nation into a technocratic surveillance nightmare. And so we're going to be talking about with Aaron Day at the bottom of the hour. He's one of the world's foremost experts on this, also cryptocurrencies. Lots of shenaniganizing going on. We are going to look at some of those headlines today. You guys see the headlines of today of the Shannon Joy Show. Trump thinks that Sweeney is hot and criticism of Israel is not. We have saw, just a ridiculous. And then the second line, as I saw CJP rumble, everything is stupid. These headlines are stupid. From nuclear submarines to Russia, to Sidney Sweeney's genes and Israel, any state that boycotts or doesn't contract with Israel is now on the chopping block. Donald Trump saying that they are not going to get emergency aid, right? If they don't share his position on the politics of Israel. It's absurd. It's insane. Everything is stupid. And this is kind of my trick these days. I'm headlining my show with the stories that you should not be paying attention to, okay? Sidney Sweeney's genes don't matter, and Trump's ridiculous post on Truth Social, which I don't even believe he wrote at this point, but basically going out there and we love Sidney Sweeney and she's totally hot, and then a rambling, ridiculous, stupid post going after certain industries and businesses. It's absolutely ridiculous. And these are the clickbait headlines being obsessed over by the left-wing news media and right-wing news media. Everyone on the right also talking about Texas redistricting. The Democrats are freaking out. All of a sudden, Republicans love redistricting if it's going to help their guys, right? They hate it when it happens in New York State, which is my home state. They complain about it when it happens in California. But if the Republicans get redistricting in Texas, well, they love it. On the other hand, the Democrats are the same way. They will deploy redistricting in New York State. They'll use it in California and other blue states and think it's just the greatest thing since sliced bread. But then when the Republicans try to do it in Texas, they clutch their pearls. They are running around with chickens with their heads cut off. It's all so terrible. And this is the insanity that is the two-party political system. They are all complete hypocrites, absolutely hypocritical, and they drag us through this political cycle day in and day out, and it's absolutely exhausting. This is why, as you know, the thesis here on the Shannon Joy Show is they're all playing for the same team. It is a very convenient power sharing operation, which we see here in New York State, right? The redistricting, the cheating, the stacking of the deck for the Democrats in New York State is completely obvious. It's completely corrupt. And guess what? The Republicans in New York State love it. They run fake campaigns every 2 years and pretend to go up against the Democrats. Nothing ever happens, but they all get rich. They all get their contracts. The largesse continues from the government spending. The corruption continues. And both parties, the political class, laugh all the way to the bank. And now it's come full circle to the point where Donald Trump is engaging in rug pulls and pay to play on a regular basis, right in our faces, two-barreled middle finger at the American people, right? He doesn't care. Go ahead and try to stop me. He knows that we can't. It's right in our faces. And this is why Palantir is valued at $1 billion. This is why Donald Trump, Trump Inc., MAGA Inc., and his family have raked in billions, increased their family's wealth by an extraordinary amount just in the past 6 months, with one rug pull after another and other sorts of insider trading. And this is just par for the course. They're doing it right in our faces and laughing at us, right? At least the Bidens, as terrible as Joe Biden was and the Hunter Biden scandal and everything that they were doing in Ukraine, completely corrupt. But at least they had the decency to hide it, right? This is a new Trump era. They call it the golden era, but it isn't. It's for the elites. It's for the politically connected. And they are screwing the little guy, you and me, every single day. And this is why your kids can't buy a home in the United States of America. Very important piece by Daniel Horowitz in the show notes of the Shannon Joy Show today. The rate cliff is real, and Washington created it. The dream of home ownership in the United States is crumbling, and it is the fault of the Democrats and the Republicans. We're going to go over that in just a minute on the Shannon Joy Show. But do not tell me, all right? Do not tell me, Donald Trump, that we are in a new golden age here in America when the most basic foundational component of the American dream, property ownership, home ownership, fundamental wealth, is off the table for the majority of the American people. Trump is creating a renter society. We will own nothing and be happy, and this is complete bullshit. So don't lie to me. Don't try to create this golden age or golden era. It's a joke. And this is why Ed Dowd, in another brilliant interview, which I have also linked in the show notes of the Shannon Joy Show today, which is an interview that he recently did with Michelle Macri. We have the clip there of that interview. But this is why Ed Dowd is saying the dollar reserve system is over, but it's not going to go gently into the night, and that the real economy underneath the numbers that we are seeing over the last year and a half is abysmal. And that is his perspective. He is, it's an unbelievable interview. But he's basically calling it out. There is no golden era. There is no golden age. And we're seeing that now with gold also poised to surge. This is another astounding piece. Jesse Colombo of The Bubble. He's the Bubble on Twitter, but he has an amazing Substack, and he has been one of the most consistent analysts, economic analysts. I've been using him for over 10 years. And his piece that is also in the show notes of my top headlines today, why gold may soon surge to 4,400. This is not because things are good in Washington, D.C. This is not because Trump is doing anything of value in Washington, D.C. In fact, he's plundering and also dumping on the heads of the American people tariffs, which are taxes. One tariff after another after another. No, we're not charging foreign companies to import their goods into the United States of America. We're charging the American people a tax. This is basic, and we've been saying this is basic understanding of tariffs, and it has been this way for the past, 50 years. All of a sudden, because Trump is deploying tariff taxes, all of a sudden the right loves it. But the deception is just unbelievable. So yes, Donald Trump thinks that Sidney Sweeney is hot, but that doesn't really matter. It's a squirrel. These are distraction headlines. But I am having a very good time headlining every one of my shows. If you've noticed, it's a little scam that I'm running recently. So I'm taking all of the dumbest stories of the news cycle, the ones that you shouldn't be paying attention to, but they're total clickbait. So I'm putting them in my title for, ad searches. And hopefully we can draw some people in and tell them, okay, these are the headlines, but they don't matter. CJP Rumble, who was Ed on with? He was on with a woman, I don't even know who she is, Michelle Macri. It is linked in the show notes of the Shannon Joy Show. And this is what he said. Here's just a snippet of what Ed Dowd had to say about this economy. And it is completely in line with what I've been saying, what Catherine Austin Fitts has been saying, Patrick Wood has been saying, so many of our economic analysts. And this is what he said. Here's a quote. The dollar reserve system is not going to go gently into the night. And that is why you're seeing this, the expansion of the technocracy, the hype about stable coins and Bitcoins and all of the different Tether, which is another one. He said the whole military industrial complex benefits from our ability to create dollars out of thin air and force other countries of the world to transact in our dollars. He said they will fight to the death to defend that. And that is why they are engaging in this scheme because the profligate spending, the debt and the deficit, like the game is over for the dollar. So they're trying to convert the dollars into crypto, dump it on the American people, while the elites, the central banks, and those connected are doubling, tripling, and quadrupling down on physical gold and silver and land and hard assets. He said that there is more gold. Ed Dowd believes, this is his opinion, this is a quote, that there is more gold in Fort Knox than we know, and it's in other central banks as well. They are hoarding gold and silver right now. And he said that's why there hasn't been an audit. He said that another quote, the real economy underneath the numbers that we've seen over the last year and a half have been abysmal, and that this has been the biggest asymmetrical trade I've ever seen in my life. He's also predicting a housing collapse. I mean, he's saying that it is coming. He thinks it's sooner rather than later. But that's the story, the overvaluation. And Jesse Colombo talks about it in this piece. One of the reasons that he thinks that gold is not only going to surge to 4,400 very soon, he thinks in the next 10 years that I believe gold could reach or will reach at least, get this, 15,000 per ounce in the next decade. And that will be the case if we continue to see the corruption and the distortions and the profligate spending and the manipulations by not only the Federal Reserve, our fiscal and monetary policy, but by both political parties. And there is no end in sight, it seems. This is why I have been telling you, and this is not meant to be an ad, but seriously, this is why I've been telling you guys, it is not too late to get into gold and silver, whether it's physical gold and silver in your safety deposit box or backing up or moving big portions of your IRA or your 401k into gold and silver backed retirement accounts. I cannot recommend exploring your metals strategy with our friends over at Colonial Metals Group more. There is still time. There is still room. They are still there for you to talk to. And as you guys know, it's the company I use, colonialmetalsgroup.com/joy, colonialmetalsgroup.com/joy. Again, not meant to be an ad, but that is the company that I use and I trust. I use them for both my physical gold and silver purchases and also for my independent, self-directed gold and silver backed IRA. So we're going to go over this. This is Jesse Colombo, why gold may soon surge to 4,000. That's linked in the show notes of the Shannon Joy Show. This is Daniel Horowitz. The rate cliff is real and Washington, D.C. created it. I want to go through that right now. And then we also have listed in my top headlines, selling us rope, Palantir is raking in billions from Washington, the Ed Dowd interview, and also a great piece from Dr. Peter McCullough, nailing it once again, hammering the left and the right, Democrats and Republican, for engaging in distraction campaigns, purposeful distraction campaigns to keep our eye off of the tragedy and travesty of the COVID vaccine poisoning of so many Americans. And so we're going to be doing a deep dive in what's going on at HHS in regards to a COVID reckoning and addressing those who have been injured by COVID vaccines. We have Sasha Latapova and Naomi Wolf in the Joy virtual studio on Thursday to talk about that. Tomorrow, we have Courtney Turner, who we met last week, and she is writing, again, some really blockbuster pieces on the technocracy, another new amazing source here for the Shannon Joy Show. So she will be joining us tomorrow, Naomi Wolf, Sasha Latapova on Thursday, and of course, Aaron Day will be joining us in the Joy virtual studio in just a couple minutes. And maybe I can go through some of these because we are going to be talking about the technocracy. But this issue of home ownership is unbelievable. It is unbelievable that they are crushing one of the most foundational ways to build wealth for poor and middle class families, upper middle class, is through the ownership of property, building equity, not flushing your money down the toilet in rent or leasing every single month, but paying yourself, essentially paying yourself back and owning something at the end of 10 or 15 or 30 years, something that you could pass on to your family, to your children. This is being stripped at a breakneck pace. We are witnessing this as they're telling us we're in a golden era. So I want to go through this piece with Aaron Day, and we will also look at why gold may soon surge to 4,400 and how gold is going to be, that's the other thing. Ed Dowd saying that absolutely. Right now, the investors in the know are not just buying gold. They are buying it at an astronomical pace. One could say maybe they're hoarding it. Okay, so this is happening, and you're not hearing about it on any conservative media outlets because they're all likely being paid by Trump to be his propagandists. And it's just devastating. All of them. And I don't want to name names, but, maybe I will at some point, and I have before. I would say 90% of your conservative front-facing influencers, commentators, reporters, and analysts are in the tank for Trump. They're completely political, which makes them propagandists. They're not analysts. They're not objective. They're not newscasters. They aren't reporters. They are propagandists. And the propaganda is in the form of telling you outright lies and also omitting from their coverage the stories that actually matter to you. Do you hear about anyone in conservative media who cares about the homeowner and the destruction of the dream of home ownership here in the United States of America? I mean, that is so distinctly American. That is such a foundational principle of the pursuit of happiness. That is what most would think making America great again would be. It would be continuing the legacy of home ownership in the United States of America, which they're just crushing. Yeah, I'll say Glenn Beck. Glenn Beck is irritating me lately. I think it is the platforming of Alan Dershowitz, the attorney to the pimps and the pedophiles who's coming in and trying to launder Jeffrey Epstein's character along with Ghislaine Maxwell's character. Not okay with me. And Glenn Beck just sits there and just gives him his audience. Not okay. Not okay at all. So yeah, Glenn Beck is in the doghouse for me today. And I'm not afraid to say it. Propagandists. Liars for the political party in power, and they cash in on their lies. Is that blatant enough? Do I need to sugarcoat this so that it's palatable for people to understand how we're all getting screwed by this apparatus, this administration, the technocracy, and the so-called conservative constitutionalists who are running cover for them? Come on. Unbelievable. All right, we have Aaron Day in the Joy Virtual Studio, so we're going to take a break in just a moment, and then we'll bring him in. Let's say hello to everyone on the live chat, though. Karen Carpenter 27, so great to see you on the live chat. Done Fed Up is with us as well. It is a circus, and you guys know, I mean, this is my write-up in today's newsletter, the Shannon Joy Daily e-letter, which is not written by AI, by the way. It is 100% bona fide, organic, certified Shannon Joy. That's why it's so badly written. But everything is stupid. The headlines are stupid. The news is stupid. Our leaders are stupid. Our president is stupid. The commentators on the left and the right are idiots, morons, grifters, in my opinion, at this point, lying to us every single day. And so, yes, it is a circus. I wrote this. The absurdity of our daily news cycle in America is something to behold. I'm more convinced than ever that the news is a purposeful circus to mask a foundational ideological shift to American techno fascism, which has taken hold of this country, and what this administration hopes to export to the world. And that's what they've done over the past 6 months with emergency declarations, legislation, and executive orders. No, this isn't a new golden age. We are being ushered into an age of dystopian, autocratic, digital control. And that is what Aaron Day is an expert in. So we're going to bring him in a moment. Green Tea 369, it's great to see you on the live chat as well. And I would love, we have Aaron for an entire hour, so we're going to keep him through the end of the show today. And so if you guys have questions for Aaron, this would be a great time. We'll have our conversation, and then we'll open up the discussion for questions at the end. I think that'd be a great idea. Nostradamus, responding to Karen Carpenter 27, buying gold isn't an option for most people. Nostradamus, yes, it is. I began buying gold almost 10 years ago, and silver. Silver is definitely an option, and many people believe that silver is undervalued. Gold is, just buy a little bit at a time. You guys know my philosophy. I have a little bit in cash, a little bit in land. I have a little bit in gold and silver. So it's about 25, 25, 25. And then, yes, I do have a regular stock market IRA that I run through Don Polano of PCM and Associates. So gold is just always a component of my broader strategy, but I've been increasing my holdings in physical gold and silver. And I'm also now moving my investment strategy is into my individual IRA. It's the gold-backed IRA that I use for Colonial. So I'm going to be dumping all of my savings are going to be going into that moving forward as I continue to buy silver, physical gold and silver as well. This is not financial advice. This is just what I do. So, but Nostradamus, especially if you look at Jesse Colombo, in the near future, he's saying we're looking at 4,400 gold. And if the corruption continues and, we continue to be in this situation with these corrupt leaders distorting everything, we could see gold at, he said, 15,000 per ounce in less than 10 years. So if anything, a little bit at a time, and then I don't worry about it. The other things I can't control. There's much I can't control. Now I'm sure that Aaron will have something to say about crypto and we can talk about that too. So, because there might be crypto in the future too. I think Bitcoin's a scam and a lot of what they're doing, but Aaron understands all this and he'll help us understand it as well. And then I will also let you guys in on my big Shannon Joy list of the best analysts, truth tellers, independent reporters in the country today. I'm not just hammering the left-wing media and the right-wing media. I'm also hoping to drive you all to other sources, many of which I have been using for over a decade, who know what's going on, and they've been consistent. Even when it was dangerous, even when they had much to lose, they have been consistent with their analysis. And it's why most of them that you are going to hear are not platformed on the big outlets, but they're good. So we're going to let you in on that amazing list as well later on in the show. So let's go to a quick break. When we come back, we'll bring in our good friend, regular contributor on the Shannon Joy Show. And yes, Aaron Day is on my list of the best analysts in the nation and perhaps the world. We're going to talk to him about all of these issues and more today on the Shannon Joy Show. So keep it tuned right here. Donald Trump preparing an executive order to open up your 401k up to $12 trillion in private funds, Americans' retirement investments, to shady private equity and cryptocurrencies, including Bitcoin. The scariest part about this is that you might not even know that your funds now have been opened up to investments in some of these type of operations, that your investments could be converted. Even if you know about this, there might not even be a way for you to get out of it. This is why the self-directed IRA backed by gold and silver is so incredibly important. The only company that I trust is Colonial Metals Group. Not only do I purchase my physical gold and silver from Colonial Metals Group, but I also have an individual self-directed IRA that is backed by physical gold and silver. This is not paper gold and silver. It's the real thing. And the process was so surprisingly easy, so quick. You can do it in less than a couple days. I love the folks over at Colonial Metals Group. They don't do pressure selling. They don't try to manipulate you. They don't use fear selling. They just meet you right where you are, lay out all of the options. If you have a 401k, if you have an IRA, because they're opening up to IRA as well with this executive order, if you have saved your entire life and you are concerned that that is going to be erased by some of these new executive orders and legislation, now is the time, guys. Do not wait. Have that conversation. There's an amazing rep standing by. Tish was my girl. She's amazing. Just go to colonialmetalsgroup.com/joy. That is colonialmetalsgroup.com/joy. Make sure you tell them that Shannon Joy sent you, and you can get on the path to backing up your retirement with our friends at Colonial Metals Group. Welcome back, everyone, to the Shannon Joy Show. And without further ado, I want to bring in our guest for today, the Aaron Day. Welcome to the Shannon Joy Show, Aaron. You can follow him on Twitter. His handle is @AaronRDay, and daylightfreedom.org. Daylightfreedom.org is his organization. He is, as I mentioned, one of the foremost experts in the technocracy in the United States of America, following the just astonishing, breathtaking pace of the installation of the technocracy over the past 6 months under the Trump presidency. I'm sure you saw the valuation now of Palantir. Aaron Day is now $1 billion. Peter Thiel cashing in the United States of America in the year 2025. You can purchase a president. And when you do, well, the money just rolls in. What are your thoughts on that initially, Aaron? We're going to get into some bigger topics as well, but that was an astonishing headline that you've been predicting. We've been predicting for quite some time. It was obvious that that purchase happened, but what are your thoughts?
Well, it's great to be back. And yeah, Palantir is truly terrifying. So I think it was announced that they just hit, I think $1 billion in revenue, but the company's actually worth $405 billion.
My bad.
So this is quickly turning into one of the largest and most valuable companies in the world. And once you dig into what Palantir has been doing for years and even show the statements of their CEO, Alex Karp, or Peter Thiel, people should be genuinely horrified by this. I mean, they meddle in elections. They work on predicting crime. So pre-crime, kind of like that movie Minority Report. I mean, this is literally what this organization has been up to. And now Trump is going to have them build a database of Americans. They're already, sucking in IRS data into this master database. This is the real threat. The real threat isn't Republican versus Democrat. It's always been about the growth of technocracy. And technocracy has not stopped growing. And in fact, it's accelerating. And this news about Palantir is just one example of that.
Aaron, you mentioned truly frightening characters, Peter Thiel and Alex Karp, running Palantir, this corporation becoming more and more powerful. As we know, the single hottest commodity and most valuable commodity, it seems, on the face of the planet today is data and information. And through President Trump, the technocrats, first Elon Musk in his coup de Doge in the first 3 months of the presidency, was able to suck up very valuable information on the American people. But now this is also being handed to private enterprises like Palantir. Why do you believe it's frightening? Why do you believe it's so dangerous for people like Alex Karp, given his ideology and things that he said in the past, to have this very critical, powerful, and valuable information about the American people and the nation?
Well, because you have to understand what the end goal is of technocracy. And the end goal of technocracy is to change the entire way the globe is actually. Oh, you need more volume? Okay, so
let's get a little more volume on Aaron. We want to hear you.
Hold on one sec. How's that?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, good. The goal of technocracy is complete global control from the top down. So you have to understand what technocracy is. It is a complete re-envisioning of how government works. There is no constitution. There are no individual rights. There are no property rights. The whole idea behind technocracy is you have essentially a global government with a single currency, and that currency is backed by energy credits, but that you need to have scientists and engineers making decisions for people. So what that means is a social credit system that is tied, excuse me, to an energy credit based currency. That has been the goal and the vision of technocrats since the 1930s. And what Palantir represents is one of the fastest accelerations to that. So if you think about it, these technocrats have wanted to do this since 1930. They clearly didn't have the technology to do it, right? They didn't have the ability to measure or build an energy credit based currency. There was no ability to do a social credit system. But now this is moving full steam. I actually saw this morning, related to this, America's Party released a tweet, which is the party that Elon Musk is starting, which is essentially a technocracy party. And the quote is, wouldn't you rather have engineers and scientists running government instead of bureaucrats? And of course, you can look at our current corrupt government, and a lot of people are saying, hey, that sounds great, until you realize that that doesn't mean less government. It just means government controlled by a different group of people, and it truly is technocracy. So this is why this is all very troubling.
And the decision making is based on artificial intelligence, which is also, we'll talk about that in a moment. Aaron, you have been out in the fore. You posited the theory that this rift between President Trump and Elon Musk is not actually real. We know that Elon Musk backed the president, helped him to get elected, oversaw the Doge, which was the fake cutting of government spending, but it entailed Elon Musk and a team of technologists and cloud specialists going into multiple agencies over multiple weekends and uploading valuable, perhaps $1 trillion worth of valuable information and data on the American people. Then he exits the Doge, has a little fake fight with Donald Trump, and all of a sudden sets himself up as the opposition party. So once again, we're in a Hegelian dialectic situation where they're setting up the technocracy. There is the Trump, Thiel, Vance version of the technocracy, and now Elon Musk is coming in to create the opposite version. But it's all the destruction of property rights, the destruction of human rights, the destruction of humanity, mass surveillance, digital currency, digital ID, and complete dystopian control. This is kind of why I call it techno fascism and not technocracy, because I feel like the word techno fascism actually embodies this a little more. I mean, people might be like, oh, I think I like technocracy because Elon Musk says, well, wouldn't you want experts and analysts making these decisions? But you are at the fore in that theory. Can you expand on that? And do you still think that's the case here?
I think it's very likely. It's very likely that, this is one of those things where this may have been designed without Trump's knowledge. In other words, they might have actually pushed this behind the scenes, and Trump didn't even need to collude and be a part of it in order for it to play out the way that it is. I think it's important to understand, first of all, that Peter Thiel and Elon Musk have known each other for a long time. They worked together at PayPal. And there's a group of people from PayPal called the PayPal Mafia, a lot of very influential people that still have maintained their relationships and worked together on investments and on strategy behind the scenes for years. And some of the key people that are part of this PayPal Mafia are, in addition to Musk and Peter Thiel, there are many. David Sachs, who is currently our crypto AI czar. So this all kind of feeds into this. So once you understand the Trump-Musk connection, the Thiel-Musk connection, then things start to really fall into place. It's interesting to note that J.D. Vance is the vice president of the United States because of Peter Thiel. Mm-hmm. Peter Thiel hired Vance, met Vance at, I believe, Yale Law School. In fact, even the whole history behind that is interesting. But basically, Vance's first job was working for Peter Thiel. Then Vance started a venture capital firm. Peter Thiel invested in it. Then Vance ran for U.S. Senate. Thiel invested $15 million, was the largest funder of his Senate campaign. And then Thiel is the one who introduced Vance to Trump. So literally this entire thing has been pushed. Now, Vance is the likely nominee. Based on all the prediction markets, he's most likely to be the Republican frontrunner for president in 2028. Then you have Musk creating America's Party. So he's going to put up a technocrat or may even end up endorsing Vance. So in essence, the 2028 election is going to be between a technocrat and a technocrat. So people are going to be, joining sides again. What they want to do is the Hegelian dialectic. They want are you picking, the Trump side or the Musk side? But there's no difference. And so once again, they're going to get the crowd all riled up into thinking that they're actually making a choice when in reality they've already won because they've controlled who the choices are that you can actually pick from. And so that is going on. That is obviously what's going on. When you look at what was going on during the presidential race, you had Musk showing up at these rallies and he would wear this dark MAGA, t-shirt and hat and was starting to push this. Well, dark MAGA is actually tied to the whole Curtis Yarvin and, push for technocracy. In fact,
and that's dark enlightenment, right, Aaron?
It's dark enlightenment. And in fact, when Elon went to start America's Party, he hired Curtis Yarvin as a consultant to help him work on the strategy. So none of these are theories. This is, there are New York, there are several published articles. You can Google or go to X and type in Yarvin and Musk in America's Party, and you will actually find that, in fact, it is true. Yarvin was influential. Yarvin has influenced Musk and Thiel and J.D. Vance. And so he's kind of the Yuval Harari of the technocracy movement from the right wing.
The right.
And so that's essentially what's going on here.
Can I pause you there to explore that a little bit more? And just so that the audience understands, we're looking at this from a dialectical perspective, right? So they are setting up for us false choices. They are trying to implement and push in as fast as they can through the Trump administration. I agree with you, Aaron Day, that Trump might be clueless to all of this. I don't think he cares. He's getting his jet. He's getting his casino in Dubai. He's cashing in on the meme coins and the rug pulls and all of the crypto. In fact, I think his valuation of Trump Inc. has just gone through the roof because of the crypto and the Bitcoin over the past 6 months. It's pretty astonishing. But I think he really is just doing what he's told. He's been purchased, and now he is putting the United States of America, our government, our Constitution, our property, and our people on the chopping block, on the bidding block for the highest bidder. That's the way I see this happening right now. So dark enlightenment. So if you look at this from the dialectical perspective, Elon is going to appeal to the right, the more patriarchal, kind of free market. It's a little rougher, system. That's Chris Yarvin. And as you mentioned, he is heavily associated with Elon Musk and also J.D. Vance and maybe Thiel as well. And then it's interesting. I'm going to have Courtney Turner in tomorrow. She's written about this. The opposite end of that is then game B. And we don't have to get into that completely, but the game B is like a kind of softer Mother Earth, woohoo, natural type of technocracy that, and they're feeding it to the left in, through that apparatus. But so if we're looking at dark MAGA, dark enlightenment, and Curtis Yarvin, can you explain the philosophy, the dystopian and frankly terrifying philosophy of Curtis Yarvin, who really is the intellectual centerpiece, the political ideological centerpiece that guides people like Elon Musk and likely J.D. Vance, and what his worldview is and why that is so dangerous to humanity and freedom?
Yeah, at the heart of it is this idea that the Enlightenment failed because it was egalitarian in nature and it allowed everyone to participate. So at the heart of this dark Enlightenment movement is the idea that we actually need hierarchy. We need authoritarianism. And in fact, what Yarvin pushes is the idea of we need a neo-monarchy, or we essentially need a political leader that is a CEO, but that actually has absolute power. And the way that he's spinning it to libertarians in the right kind of feeds off of some of the things Jordan Peterson says, which is we need more hierarchy, we need more structure, but in this case, it's based on merit. And because it's based on merit, somehow that equates in some way to freedom, which is not absolutely true at all. But this is essentially what the philosophy is, and they've been pushing this. It's very anti-democracy, which I understand anti-democracy. I mean, in the sense that we're a constitutional republic, it's about protecting rights.
Right.
Democracy is mob rule, but it doesn't. It's not just anti-democracy. It's anti-democracy with a specific push towards hierarchies, power, and more importantly, centralized power that is effectively absolute at the level of the top leader.
What would they say about bodily autonomy, human rights, natural rights, home ownership, property rights? What would they say about that? I mean, that construct, which is what the United States of America has been built on, 250 years. It's, those core philosophies have been, I mean, we might not, our government might not respect that and they might violate it on a regular basis, but no one's really annihilated that idea. I mean, people still believe in it. What would he say to that? Does it jive with his version of the new authoritarianism that he seeks to install in the US?
It doesn't have anything to do with property rights or natural law or any of this. It's actually a completely different system. In fact, it's also global in nature. So the one thing is, it's not even just about doing this in the United States. The whole point of all of this is a move towards a global system. So yeah, there are no property rights. There is no home ownership. They view us as plebs, and that, the Enlightenment didn't work because the average person was able to exercise their own free will or make their own choices, which, by the way, it's kind of an anti-will free will even as an ideology. So what you're going to find with Yarvin and with Harari on the left, they're both atheists, and they're both determinists. So they don't actually believe in free will. So our consciousness, our ability to make decisions is not primary. So this even goes beyond property rights. This goes to the heart of free will itself, which is why it's so dangerous. But the way that it gets packaged and the way that the propaganda works, you don't see Yarvin out there saying, well, we don't have free will, and they're not pushing that. They're pushing more of they're playing off the fact that people are fed up with some of the woke stuff. They're playing off of some of the things that are genuinely bad. I mean, currently the current situation is not a good one, but the solutions that they're proposing are far worse.
What would, I've seen clips of Elon Musk talking about AI God or some type of master AI central intelligence that is all knowing, all seeing, all powerful, and that if they can collect up enough data, if the apparatus is large enough, they can achieve this new super intelligence that will then decide who gets what, who has babies, who climbs the ladder, who can own property or cannot own property, what job you'll have, what you'll eat, when you'll eat it, when you go to bed, when you get up, where you go, if you're allowed out of the 15-minute city, like all of those things. And there are clips of Elon Musk talking about that, like an AI God. What do you know of his ideology or his religious faith? I believe he's an atheist as well, but there's not a whole lot on that with Elon.
I mean, he's skirted around it. He's actually talked, and you never know when he says this how much of it is true or how much of it is fabricated. But he talks about having an existential crisis when he was a kid, and then going down and studying, religion and philosophy, and going down a variety of different rabbit holes. But it looks like where he ended up is atheism and determinism.
Mm-hmm.
And that is certainly what's reflected. He is a technocrat. So to be very clear, it's, his grandfather was the head of the Technocrat Party in Canada, but I mean, he has stated and tweeted directly multiple times that Mars will be a technocracy. And when you look at what America's party is about, the first two items that they list are the application of AI to the military and the application of AI to running government as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
So this is very much a technocratically driven approach. Now, what's going on with AI, and this is important, I just had Mike Adams on my show last week, and we
Great.
did kind of we did a deep dive on AI because he just launched his AI called Enoch, which I recommend because it's trained on a different data set, and he's actually building it so that you can download it to your own computer without even having to be connected to the internet. But we
Cool.
talked a lot about what's going on with AI, and essentially when we talk about these false choices, once again, we're being led to believe that it's the United States versus China. And within the last 2 weeks, the Trump administration has put out two large policy documents, one on digital assets and the other on AI. And what they're doing is they're doing this, okay, we're in a race for national defense and for everything against China. And the race on AI is a race for AGI, which is artificial general intelligence, which is essentially what you just mentioned, is once the view is whoever gets to AGI first wins, because you're then going to be able to turn over your governance to AGI, right? Because it's smarter than all of the rest of humanity combined. And whoever wins that race will win dominance. But that's actually even a false race because it's going to end up being a global technocracy. They're just using this to get people excited about the fact that, oh, well, we must make all of these investments in AI because it's about beating the Chinese. And actually that kind of rhetoric works. It worked with the Genius Act. It always works, unfortunately. And so now we have this massive arms race on who's going to build artificial general intelligence first.
It seems that the U.S., in this dystopian race, the U.S. is far, far ahead of China. From what I've seen, they're not even close. They're so not close to what is happening in the United States of America that many are saying it's not even an arms race. This is just the United States. We have a fiscal crisis, right? So the debt deficit, it's over. The dollar is done. And the only way that they can save and continue dollar dominance is to somehow switch that dollar to a crypto or a Bitcoin or a stable coin or a tether, dump it on the American people while all of the elites get in on the hard physical assets like land, physical gold and silver, that type of stuff, and then set up, the new currency, still US dominated. We can still print as much as we want. And then in addition to that, we're sending stacks out. And this is part of some of the recent legislation, which I'd love for you to go into, Genius Act and Stable Act and the other legislation, which actually was an executive order that established the US export of the AGI and our artificial intelligence and that collection of data. So making the United States the standard bearer for the globe in terms of this new digital economy and whatever that manifestation is. And so, that's kind of my understanding of it. Do I have a grasp on that, or where do you see the U.S. On the global stage with the deployment of this techno fascism?
So this is going to surprise you, and this was part of my research for my podcast with Mike Adams. I've actually spent a lot of time trying to understand where the U.S. is relative to China. And one thing I will say is, as Americans, we have been subjected to more propaganda than almost anyone in the world. And I wrote a tweet about this. I said, I actually think we're the most brainwashed people on the planet.
Wow.
In terms of the difference between what we think we are and what we are. So let me give you an example.
Okay.
China is actually beating the United States in 60 out of 65 technology areas. And I'm sure if a lot of people are going to get pissed off, frankly, when they hear this, but I encourage you to go to YouTube and type China robotics, China electric vehicles. We have a completely warped view of what's going on. Why? Because we don't import these things. They don't allow Chinese electric vehicles to be here. I did an interesting bit of research. So we've probably talked before about the fact that Elon didn't buy Twitter in order to save free speech. He bought it, in his own words, to build WeChat, which is basically a Chinese everything app. China already has an everything app. They're already ahead of that. Elon bought Twitter to basically duplicate that. Well, then I'm like, well, wait a minute. Wouldn't it be interesting if, because everybody's like, Musk is this great inventor and everything else, I kind of wanted to do the research. Well, what if he ripped off all of his technology? We're actually behind China, and what we're getting is the wish.com version of what's going on in China. And it turns out China is ahead in electric vehicles. It turns out that even Neuralink, there was technology that predated Neuralink in China. Even reusable rockets have been developed in development further back in China. So I've actually been going down this entire rabbit hole. But when it comes to AI, we may be ahead with some of the models like Grok or whatever might be ahead. But as Mike Adams told me, we've already lost the race to AGI for a very simple reason. In order to get to AGI, artificial general intelligence, it requires a substantial amount of computational power.
Yep.
That computational power uses energy. In fact, it's estimated that to get to AGI, we will have to increase the energy output by 1,000 times that we're currently spending in the United States on data. Our infrastructure, our electrical grid is not capable of handling that. China's grid is already light years ahead. It will probably take us somewhere from 3 to 5 years to build the energy capacity to compete. So in this respect, we may have already lost, but now of course other things can change. Maybe there's some breakthroughs, but on that basis alone, we've already lost. But you can see crazy things happening because, again, it's all a manufactured conflict anyway. I don't even see it as US versus China. It's all one global technocracy. The question is the pilot going to be in China first, or is it going to be in the US first, or somewhere else, right? But it's not really a competition. If there were a competition with China, we wouldn't be developing bioweapons with them. We wouldn't be buying half of our AI surveillance technology from China. So it's all fake.
Right.
But the reality is, I do encourage everybody to look at even computers. There was a computer that I saw that was launched last week. That's like it's like an iPad and a notebook and everything all blended in one, based out of China, that actually has all of the best qualities of. They're even tackling Apple, and because of the tariffs that Trump has introduced, areas where we had a huge advantage, like developing the GPUs that are used for AI, China has now hyper accelerated their own internal research. And so they're in the areas where they were behind, they're now catching up because of these tariffs. So don't take my word for it. I actually played the 3-minute clip that shows they have fully automated factories in China that are run by robots. In particular, their robot technology is way ahead of the US and the applications of this. When TikTok was shut down for a short period of time, there was this there was another social network in China called Red something or other, and people started logging into this. Let me see if it's Red Note. And Americans were logging into Red Note when TikTok was down, and they started to watch and see how people in China were living. Now, of course, some of it might have been propaganda, but what people were seeing is teenagers and young adults that were not, as it might be portrayed, living in a communist situation where they have no food and they're sleeping on dirt floors. They have better technology than we do from a day-to-day perspective on a whole variety of different things. So I encourage everybody to do your own research and start asking the question of what's actually going on in China, because we have pushed so much propaganda out that we don't realize how far behind we are. And I think a lot of Trump's entire vibe is stuck in the 1980s. Right. Like he puts out slogans and taglines as if we're still in the 1980s. And meanwhile, they're pushing the boundaries on quantum computing and robotics and everything else in China. So there's a lot to be concerned about. And by the way, because they're making it about national defense, AI and crypto and stable coins, what that's going to mean is they're going to continue to trample on whatever's left of the Constitution. I saw a story last week in Texas already. They're having to ration water because of the water requirements for an AI data center in Texas.
Yeah.
So that's already started. I've even thought about putting together, just kind of in advance. I mean, you see a lot of these war propaganda posters from World War II. Get ready for this, right? Because of the combination of the energy use of AI and the energy use of Bitcoin, I can see the propaganda posters now. Oh, it's summer, you have to keep your thermostat at 83. It's winter, you need to keep your thermostat at 55.
Yes.
We need to do it to win the race against China. We need to win the race for AI supremacy. We need to win the race for crypto supremacy. I can already see it coming because we're going to have massive shortages. I've also talked to Chris Martenson, who's been tracking data centers for quite some time. And this is an absolute disaster what's happening. So if you're listening to this, expect your electricity bill to absolutely surge because we're trying to compete on the basis of national security on AI and crypto, and we don't have the grid capacity. I actually talked to someone last week who he's an actual he's a lineman in New Jersey, but I asked him, well, what's your take on the ground? And he said, our infrastructure, our grid is disintegrating. He's like, it's getting worse, not better. And this has been going on for actually a couple of decades.
Well, and this is likely why one of the first things that President Trump did was to create or to issue the emergency declaration on energy. Aaron, this would explain, and we've covered this extensively here on the Shannon Joy Show, the push to shove massive Manhattan-sized data centers into every town and village across the United States of America. Data processing centers that are so large that they need a nuclear reactor attached to them. The amount of water that these data centers will need is frankly unbelievable. And so in this, so I want to take this back a moment, because what you paint here is a very dystopian picture. It's a very scary picture. It makes people think that this is inevitable, that these people, whether it's the Chinese or the technocrats here in the US, are masters of the universe already. And they are all seeing, all knowing. The technology is there. They're so super smart. I have stated, and I stick to this, and I think that Patrick would agree with me as well, that yes, the technology has advanced. Yes, there are good ways for us to use this technology, but no, it's not nearly as powerful as they think it is. I think it's utterly ridiculous to think that they can have God-like artificial intelligence. Just the name artificial intelligence shows you that it's artificial, it's fake, right? The only way they can get it is through actual human intelligence and the collection of data and resources from like the natural world and the natural human. So I get concerned when it seems like it is inevitable. When I hear this is inevitable, I hear there's no reason to push back. There's no reason to fight back. There's no reason to even have our discussion, Aaron Day. Why would we have our discussions? If they have everything, they have all the power, their little robots are going to do all the things, and we're all just going to go into some, dystopian nightmare that was written about in sci-fi decades ago. So I want to challenge you there when we come back. Where is the hope? Where is the resistance? What is it that we can do? I don't think that we just have to accept this. Quite frankly, I hate AI. I never use it. I don't use it for my show. For the most part, I don't use it for any of my writing, any of my commentary. I'm never reading a teleprompter. I think that creativity, I think that the human will be able to detect. I know people think that this is going to be like so amazing. You're not going to be able to know the difference. I think there is going to be a way for us to detect, and that we're now in definitely interesting times, but there is absolutely a place for humanity in the next 100 years. And we can put technology and the technocracy and the techno-fascists in their place, but we have to have conversations about humanity, and we're not. So when we come back, I want to go there with you, if we could. We have to go to a commercial break right now. I want to get your thoughts on that. Where's the resistance? What should we be doing? If you guys have questions, please put them in all caps and put them context. Don't assume that I know what you're talking about, right? So if you have a question, put it in context, put it in all caps. We will ask Aaron. Even comments, we'll take those as well when we come back right here on the Shannon Joy Show. We love the folks over at Native Path. As you know, my morning routine is everything to me. Every morning I hydrate with Native Path Hydrate, and right after the hydration, the collagen goes in the coffee every single morning. Collagen is something that everyone over the age of 45 should start considering, because as we age, our bodies produce less collagen. That can impact our joint, our muscles, our hair, our nails, our skin. It is the reduction in the production of collagen that kind of makes it look old. So collagen is one of my beauty secrets, Devastatingly Handsome Dr. Joy. He uses it to tackle his joint pain, and it's the best on the market. Absolutely flavorless. It dissolves instantly, no clumps, no mess. It is 100% grass-fed beef protein, or I'm sorry, beef collagen, and it is delicious. Native Path always has the best price point, and right now, 45% off for the Joy audience. Go to getnativepathcollagen.com. That is getnativepathcollagen.com for the exclusive 45% off stock up sale. I have not found a better product at a better price point than Native Path's collagen. It beats Walmart, it beats BJ's, anything you can get online. It just gets the job done, which is why I love it and why I use it every morning. Thank you to Native Path Collagen. Thank you to Satellite Phone Store, sat123.com/joy, sat123.com/joy. Without their amazing sponsorship, we couldn't bring the show to you every day. And it's always 10% off for every Joy viewer and listener with the promo code JOY. Why do we love them? Well, among other things, the satellite phones, the generators, the solar panels, everything you need for when the lights go out. They also have the most extensive line, one of the best quality lines of Faraday technology, beanies, bags, blankets, apparel. This is a way for you to reduce your body's exposure to EMF, electromagnetic frequencies. And as we know, talking to Dr. Williams, that exposure can impact your heart health. And so a regular usage of that type of technology, super helpful. Again, so thankful to the Satellite Phone Store, among our other sponsors. Welcome back, everyone, to the Shannon Joy Show. Yes, Native Path Collagen is a staple in the Joy household. In fact, all of the Native Path products, we use Native Path Hydrate, Native Path Collagen. My son Jack is now using the Native Path Creatine, which we are going to be rolling out here on the Shannon Joy Show in just a week or so. Ads for that. Also, the Native Path Protein. These products are just the best on the market. I mean it when I say I have not been able to find higher quality products at the price point that we offer to the Joy audience on a regular basis. These products pack a punch. They are clean. As I mentioned, it's always the most natural ingredients. Less is more. So no colors, no fillers, no added calories, no added flavors. It's just the best products. And so this is why my son Jackson came up to me last week and he's like, Mom, I'm in the best shape of my life. I am bringing all of my Native Path stuff to college. He wants to put his entire beach volleyball team on the Native Path protein and the creatine. He loves it. He uses the hydrate as well. So make sure right now, Native Path Collagen, 45% off. That's getnativepathcollagen.com. Getnativepathcollagen.com. MAV 2022. Shannon, my spouse uses the Native Path krill oil. I would buy through your link if you have one. I do. I have Native Path krill oil as well. Mav, I'll let you know if we can get a link for that. I am trying to put everything, to consolidate all of my Native Path products onto one page so that it's easier for you guys to go to. They always give me a different link and a different URL. And I'm like, oh my gosh, just give me one. We love all the products. They're all phenomenal. And so they make it a little bit more difficult than I think it has to be, but we're going to work on that. So we'll take a look at the krill oil. I like the krill oil too. It's really interesting. So let's go back to Aaron Day. And so this is my point. General Patton on the live chat. I see you. In all caps, the world is ending. Right? So people hear what you say, Aaron, and then especially Christians, people who are believers. I am a believer. My faith has not been shaken at all through all of this. By the way, I believe in a natural God. He is way more powerful than any of their tech gods or their artificial intelligence. General Patton, I always go back to Christ. For thousands of years in human history, 4,000 years, 5,000 years, people have asked, when is the world going to end? And it seems like every generation thinks that the world is going to end in their time because they think things are so bad. Jesus Christ said, I don't know when asked, only the Father knows. I've seen way too many Christians wait for Jesus to come back, think that there's nothing they can do, so they become completely apathetic and they don't make any choices, they don't stand up, they don't have opinions because they just assume the world is going to end. And Aaron, that's what I worry about sometimes when I hear people who are fighting the technocracy and techno fascism. There is sometimes this sense of inevitability, like that just give up because it's coming anywhere. What do you say to people when they bring those concerns to you and they're just like, it doesn't matter, they're going to own us, we're all going to die, world's going to end, why are we even doing this?
Well, we have free will. At least we still have free will. And
Yes.
so I don't think that there is a deterministic outcome. Because we do have free will, we can shape what the end game ends up looking like. Now, I'm not anti-technology, nor am I anti-AI. I mean, AI can do some pretty amazing things, and there are different models that can empower. AI can empower free will by basically increasing the number of choices that you can make and
Sure.
increasing your ability to be creative. So technology can either be used for freedom or it can be used for technocracy. Unfortunately, what we're seeing is a much more rapid rollout of the technocracy version and a centralization of it, which is what Trump's policies that have been released in the last 2 weeks explicitly say. I mean, it actually talks about, well, we're going to be able to remain the dominant force because of the centralization and involvement of the federal government.
Right.
That part of it is horrifying. But I don't actually have a negative outlook on this. I mean, I spend my time, and in fact, I also don't go into survival mode either. A lot of people go down to, well, how can I protect what I have? I mean, when you're facing a system, a technocratic system that doesn't acknowledge property rights, trying to figure out how to balance your portfolio is missing the point. We need to be building alternative systems, and we can build alternative systems that are better than what we have. The future can actually be better than what we currently have. And in fact, when you really look at it, what we have right now is a Ponzi scheme where, as I said, I'm not even kidding. I think Americans are the most brainwashed people on the planet. And I say this in a variety of different ways. We're number one. You know, I'll challenge people online. We're not rated number one for free speech. We're not number one for innovation. We're not number one for tech anymore. That stuff is gone. We're like buying into these things that, you know, may have been true in the past, but haven't for quite some time. So what we have to do is, in order to defeat this, we have to recognize that we need to build a better future, and we need to put our efforts behind it and not hedge. So if we sit and say, well, this might turn out this way, so I'm not going to speak out, I'm going to keep my investments where they are because it might play out this way. If the more people do that, that means the more people are putting their energy towards the existing system, which will naturally devolve into a technocracy. But if more people exercise their free will to build these alternatives, then we can have a brighter future. I was just on a call today, right before this, with a technology that can create a completely private internet and a completely encrypted internet. So imagine a situation where everything that we're doing right now that is censored and tracked and advertising based, where all these third parties, imagine an internet that's completely and totally private and encrypted. Those are the kinds of things that are actually possible. So I'm excited about pursuing the freedom, and I do spend most of my time pursuing the freedom, but we can't give up, and we also can't go with this white knight strategy. Absolutely no one is going to save us. We can save ourselves by reclaiming our free will and exercising our free will.
Okay, here's a question. Do you think that resistance, local resistance and organization at the local level across the country to stop the development and the implementation of these massive, massive data centers, do you think that that is a fruitful endeavor? I happen to think it is.
So I think building system like marketplaces for healthcare and food that are global, not just local, but that are private, is a better approach, because the problem is, and I've seen this, and I'm in New Hampshire where it's, more pro-liberty than anywhere else, where there's an active movement and of people that are actively engaged in politics. And even here, I have not seen local politics play out where it's sustainable. You might win one election, you might get control of a school board for 2 years, and then it ultimately reverts
I don't
back.
mean elections. I'm not talking about elections. I'm talking about what the citizens are doing. I mean, there have been examples of citizen groups forming, not election, not running for electoral, positions, but just completely obliterating and rejecting the plans for data centers. And they're basically able to say, like, just not in our backyard. We've seen that play out in Texas and in California. There's a big battle happening in West Virginia right now about one of these data centers. And I have a feeling that regular people, I mean, quite frankly, I don't like technology at all. I really don't. I'm only on it ever to do this show. And then, frankly, when I'm done with this show and when I retire, I think I'm going to throw it all in the Erie Canal. I don't want it. I'm bored by it. It doesn't really help me very much. I don't think that AI is that interesting. It's a nice search engine, maybe an enhanced search engine, but I don't see anything valuable about it. Where do people like where do people like me go? Because I don't want any of it. I like analog.
Well, again, analog is going to be tough because you're fighting a global technocracy that doesn't care. It is global in nature. In fact, if you look at the UN and the Sustainable Development Goals and the objective of technocracy, it's to regulate the land, the air, the sea, everything on Earth. And part of the whole premise behind the ideology is unless you have scientists and engineers managing all of the assets on Earth, then we're going to face an existential crisis. So there's no hiding in a cabin.
Well, there is. If we deny them the data, then they can't build their systems. So if we say, Bobby Kennedy Jr., I'm not going to be on a wearable and you can't have my data. I'm not going to go to a hospital to have my baby. I'm going to have a home birth. You can't have your data systems or your data centers. You can't have your little digital, your drones flying overhead or your cameras. Like, we could say we don't want this because I think the infrastructure is where the danger is. And if we're just kind of like, oh, well, it's going to happen anyway, and we just have to feverishly try to build a better one, even though I know you say, oh, they're building an internet that is private. I mean, everyone thought Bitcoin was private, and then they realized that Bitcoin was never private. Anything that is in the cloud or online can never truly be private. So if there are enough Americans that say, and I have a feeling when people realize the extent of these databases, in fact, I'm having conversations with people all the time, Aaron, who are not on their phones, which is great. They're not giving Elon Musk data. They're not using social media anymore. They're valuing their privacy more. They don't want to go into the WeChat.
Yes, they are. Every credit card, everything that you do outside of the system is getting sucked into a database. Even if you're not using a cell phone. I mean, when I ran a super PAC, I was able to buy a database with 500 pieces of information on every voter in New Hampshire, including magazine subscriptions.
Yeah, there's a lot of data out there, but it doesn't mean why give them more? Just because they have some, why would we give them more?
Well, you can not give them more, but don't fool yourself into thinking you're not giving them data, even if you don't have a phone.
Oh, no, I certainly know that data is, my face is on the internet every single day. So I understand that there are going to be some limitations that we're going to have to interface with technology in some ways. But I don't necessarily accept that this is just inevitable. And personally, I don't think they're smart enough to do this. I don't think it's that as brilliant as they say that it is. And I think they're also going to kill a lot of people with this type of implementation.
Well, it's not going to work. And so what's going to happen is either the AI is going to take over or they're going to kill each other and the rest of humanity fighting over who's going to control the technocracy. So there's at no point is this going to end in a utopian scenario. And at no point is this going to be a scenario that values free will. That doesn't mean they won't actually get control. Now, I would say this. I mean, you can fight data centers all you want. Here's the problem. The problem is that this is going to come down to national security, and they will violate everybody's rights, even at a local level, for that, which is why all you have to do is look at the federal government policy on AI and crypto and realize they're just going to run over everybody's rights. The data centers are going to
try. Yeah.
The data centers are going to build, but I've been telling people for 3 years what the answer is for this. The answer is you stop using the dollar. This means don't use cash because
I like cash. See,
I don't
this
care.
Is where you and I disagree. Yeah.
You are funding the government. If you're using cash, you are playing into the government. So all of the wars, all of the policy, all of the AI, all of the surveillance, when you're using cash, yes, it might be more private, but you're funding all of the things that you're fighting against. And this is the biggest problem that I have with a lot of this, which is that people are using the very things that they think that they're trying to defeat. You have to remove your energy from it. So by
Yeah, but
stopping using,
not tech though. So like that is why cash is truly private. Gold and silver, truly private, truly analog. Land, if they want to take land, they can try, but they're going to have to come in and take it, right? If enough people push back. And I think that more energy should be spent in showing people that you can push back. You don't have to let them scan your face when you go into the airport. You don't have to use any crypto whatsoever. I'm not a fan of crypto. I'll never be a fan of any type of digital money. I think that personally, I think that it's all hyped, and I just don't see it working. I see people using it, and it might settle out like in the future when we win, which I think we are going to win. I think we are going to push back on these data centers. I don't think that they're going to be able to implement nearly as much of this as they think they are. I think that AI is a bubble. I think the tech stocks are bubbles. I think that Bitcoin is a bubble. And so when people realize that there's no there, I think that we will then settle. We will take the parts of technology that we like and we'll use them for humanity moving forward. We will reject the parts that we don't like, and then maybe I'll like some digital stuff. Maybe I'll invest in a crypto or something like that. But I think that people who are buying into the inevitability of technocracy are also contributing to the problem, right? Not the people using cash. The people are like, well, it's inevitable, so you got to go find the crypto that I like,
By using cash, you are funding the government. You are funding the technocracy. Literally, it can't be clearer about that. Also, all cash is a piece of paper that represents a database.
I know. But it's private and it's analog.
Which by the way has a serial number on it. Do research on the tracking nanotechnology and RFID projects that are being piloted to add trackability to cash. So what I'm saying is you've got to pull. If you want, look, that's fine. If you don't have to like crypto, you can go to gold.
I like
these are gold backs.
Love gold backs.
But it can't be any form of the dollar, digital or cash, because you're then funding the thing that is accelerating the technocracy. So you're not going to beat a thing by participating in it or by hedging and being partially involved, because if they're implementing a top-down strategy and everybody's sitting around saying, well, I'm going to spend 30% of my effort in the same system, but only 70% or 50% in the system, 50% out of the system, there's a 0% chance we'll win, because people are allowing their energy to go into the thing that they don't want to see. So it can be defeated. And the single best way to do this, and the single best way to stop data centers, is to stop using the dollar. In fact, very few people are required to, because the system's a Ponzi scheme and there's so much debt, to actually defund all of it. That is the single way to do it. But
I want to protect. This is where you and I fundamentally disagree. We have to have another conversation on this, because I want to protect the dollar. I think that the best thing that could happen to them is crushing or collapsing the US dollar, right? And then using that as the excuse to move us all of us into some type of private banking digital currency. And so that you and I agree on like 99% of the stuff, Aaron. I think that there are slight disagreements on the cash issue, but I think listen, I think that you have a great understanding of the threat of technocracy. And I love a new AI. I love private internet. I love the idea of different cryptocurrencies that might be more private and less of a Ponzi scheme than Bitcoin. And so I am an all of the above kind of gal. So I'm not going to bash, your resistance strategies, but I'm also not going to bash Catherine Austin Fitz's ideas and that type of thing. I think that all of us throwing wrenches into their plans as much as we can from the bottom up, whether it's with the internet, it's your version of AI, or local organization, removing yourself from the grid, using cash, fighting the data centers, refusing to give them as much of your private information as possible. I think all of those things together will aid and abet, our resistance and the ability to be free in the 21st century.
Well, I would just say fiat currencies never worked. Fiat currency is the basis of government tyranny. So
I know.
I strongly don't understand how we're going to defeat the technocracy by continuing to use their money. And so I'd be happy to talk to anyone about that, because
I know.
that to me is the heart of the control system. And so, anyway, that's
I agree. No, that would be another conversation for you and I to have. But I think you're great. How can people find you? And ask Aaron about property taxes. Do we just stop paying them? Okay. How do you pay your property taxes?
At this point, I've got so many friends in prison that I'm not going to give tax advice. But there's a but again, remember, I've sold all of my stuff. I went from a 6,000 square foot house to 2 suitcases.
I know. Like, no, you are actually doing the thing, and we got to go. I think you're great. And we should have another. What was that?
Same. I always enjoy talking to you and coming on the show. And absolutely.
All right. He is Aaron Day, daylightfreedom.org, daylightfreedom.org. That was a great conversation. And we're going to have you in again to talk about these and more issues. And I like the back and forth, because I think everyone's kind of grappling with these things. So thank you very much. Please support everything that Aaron is doing. As I mentioned, I'm an all of the above kind of gal, and I'm not against technology. And I love that daylightfreedom.org is dedicated to privacy and technology, to creating alternate solutions, better solutions to go up against these massive top-down government infiltrations and abuses of our human rights. So all of that happens at daylightfreedom.org. That is daylightfreedom.org. Follow him on Twitter. Thank you so much, Aaron.
Thank you.
All right.
Talk to you soon.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you guys for being with us today on the Shannon Joy Show. I'm so sorry we got into it and we just did not have time to get to some of your questions. By the way, you guys asked your questions like way after we got into it. And so we just didn't have time. So I appreciate all of you. We will continue this discussion on the Shannon Joy Show. Thank you for watching. Give us a like, give us a thumbs up. We'll be back tomorrow with Courtney Turner to do it all again right here on the Shannon Joy Show.